Hare Krishna, everyone, and a warm welcome back once again to our ever-ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. But first, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastatya Desha Tarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, early this morning I was thinking that this entire series of lectures about Vrindavan that we've been doing for so many years now is simply to help us focus, or you could say concentrate, on Krishna and his pure devotees. Then later in the morning I heard the following in a Srimad Bhagavatam lecture by Srila Prabhupada that he gave on January 17th, 1971. He said as follows: if you sit down and write some article on Krishna, that means you have to concentrate on Krishna's activities or Krishna's devotees' activities. And that very process will purify your heart. That very process will purify your heart. Therefore, we always recommend to our students that you write articles, read our magazine, read our books. We have come here in this pandal, this Kumbh Mela, not for any other purpose than to glorify the Supreme Lord so that people may understand the importance of this movement, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. So, we're continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 141, in which we will continue our discussions on Radha and Krishna's disguises. Their disguises. So many classes we've done on disguises. Today we will discuss Krishna assuming the disguise of a Purohit, meaning a priest, from two different shastras, from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita Mahakavya, chapter 15, and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Govinda Lilamrita, chapter 18. They write of the same pastime, but they give slightly different versions. So we mix them a little bit, but it's very beautiful. Now, why in the world would Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assume the humble disguise as a priest? As a priest? Well, let's see. So, in Vrindavan Dham, Sunday, many of you know, is celebrated as the day of Surya Dev. Surya Dev is the sun god. Many Brajabasis in the past and in the present take advantage of this day to go to Surya Kund, where there's a beautiful deity of Surya Dev, the sun god, to seek his blessings. I've been there many times. For example, Maharaj Brishabhanu, Srimati Radharani's father, goes there regularly to worship Surya Dev out of fear of Kamsa, who, as we know, resides in nearby Mathura and is always intent on killing Krishna. His daughter, Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, also regularly visits Surya Kund, especially every Sunday afternoon, on the request of her mother-in-law, Jatila. I was reading of these two acharyas' writings that Jatila's reasoning is that by worshipping Surya Dev, Radharani and her husband, Abhimanyu, their prosperity will increase. But Sri Radha always sees it as an opportunity to get out of Yavat, to somehow secretly meet with Krishna, who one time appeared there at Surya Kund, disguised as Surya Dev's pujari, the priest, Purohit. Now, our beloved Raghunath Das Goswami has immortalized that pastime in his Braj Vilas Stava, text 88. Very famously he writes, seeing her father worship Surya Dev out of fear of the nearby Kamsa, Srimati Radharani in the secluded place known as Santanupada, also earnestly worshipped Suryadev to attain a certain youth whose complexion is as dark as a host of monsoon clouds, as her chosen husband. I pray that Suryadev may protect us all. Thank you, Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, Narahari Sakar also glorifies this particular pastime in his Bhakti Ratnakara from verses 585 to 587. He writes as follows. This is Suryakunda village. Here Shri Radha went with great joy for Surya Puja, and Krishna enthusiastically became the priest. Hare Krishna. He goes on. This Surya is the great giver of priti. Priti means love towards Krishna. Hearing his glories, who will not worship Surya here? So we must all go there. It's a very special place. Now, both Krishnadas Kaviraj and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur write that on the way to Suryakund, Radharani actually first meets Krishna at 12 noon at Radhakund. This is how it unfolds. Before going there, she passes through Radhakund at 12 noon. And those acharyas say that sometimes Krishna arrives early at Radhakund and has to wait for Sri Radha, but at other times they write, it is Radha who has to wait until Krishna arrives. So when he does arrive, they describe beautifully dressed and ornamented. Sri Radha greets him with great respect by placing a garland on his neck and sandalwood paste on his arms. All these things we can just envision in our mind's eye. Then in the summer, when the heat is very oppressive, the divine couple, afterwards they enjoy swing pastimes together, and afterwards they swim in the cool waters of Radhakund. These acharyas write that Radha and Krishna's water sports may resemble the play of older children, but actually they are expressions of selfless love disclosed only to devotees with the deepest faith and grasp of the sublime. Wow. Disclosed only to devotees who have the deepest faith and a grasp of the sublime, Krishna consciousness. So then, after swimming, Radha and Krishna, they come ashore and their friends dress them in fresh clothing and flower decorations. Wow. Fresh clothing and flower decorations. Then the divine couple sits down for a game of what? Dice. We've discussed these dice pastimes in previous lectures. In these dice pastimes, Radha rolls black dice, and I was reading Krishna rolls golden dice. But Radha is actually more skilled at throwing dice. So although Krishna wins some throws, Radharani almost always wins the game. And when she does, Krishna places the dice in her hands and says, quote, "Today the goddess of fortune has smiled upon you. I thus submit myself to your lotus feet, my dear Sri Radha." Such wonderful pastimes. As a result of all this activity, by this time, it's described they're very hungry. So Srimati Radharani feeds Krishna first. She feeds him fruit collected from a nearby forest, picked by her maidservants. She feeds him savories brought from her home and sweets that she has prepared earlier in the day. Such wonderful details. And after Krishna has eaten, Radha and her friends honor his remnants. And then the divine couple retire to a beautiful jeweled temple to rest, a jeweled temple to rest. So much detail to fix our mind and help us concentrate and get purified. And meanwhile, Radharani's Sakis also rest in their respective groves around Radhakund, while the younger girls, the Manjaris, happily finish the remnants of the meal that Krishna ate and the Sakis ate before busying themselves to prepare for Radha's visit to Suryakund at 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. when it's next 3 p.m., you can think like this. This is what Radha and Krishna are doing. After this break, a parrot suddenly arrives with news that Abhimanyu and Jatila are on their way to find out why it always takes Sri Radha and her friends so long to get to Suryakund to worship the sun god. The news arrived that they hadn't arrived there yet. So they left to find out why it's taking so long. And the acharyas say that this news is like a bucket of ice water tossed on Krishna and the gopis, who all leap to their feet at once. Then Radha and her friends hurry off to Suryakund, while Krishna goes to Kunjara, to change clothes. To change clothes, yes. To appear like a celibate brahmachari priest. Hare Krishna. So, carrying the items with which to worship the sun god, Radharani and her gopis are the first to arrive at Suryakund. And this deity of Suryadev, there he stands on a beautiful altar, which lies at the center of a flower-filled grove, within a forest of what? Wish-fulfilling trees. This is all absolute truth, absolute reality. Srimati Radharani and her maidservants, then it's described, they sit down very close to the deity of Suryadev and place gifts and items of worship on a silk cloth before the altar and begin to sing traditional songs that glorify the sun god. Then a little while later, Madhu Mangal appears along with Krishna, who is disguised as this young Brahmana priest. And Krishna, he's dressed in white cloth, and his hair is tied in a top knot, looking like a lifelong brahmachari. Krishna, lifelong brahmachari. This is his disguise today. It's also described a scarf hangs around his neck, and a large red spot of tilak is seen on his forehead. Large red spot of tilak on his forehead. His fingers are decorated with rings, and his two hands are kusha grass and a sacred book. You can just think like that. Kusha grass and a sacred book. Doesn't mention the book, just as a sacred book. So these two shastras say that he moves with an air of detachment. He is the Puryat, he is the priest. So now it's not long before Madhu Mangal notices the sweets that are waiting to be offered to Suryadev. So he says, we should not keep the Lord of the sky waiting for his worship or offering. Let us all do the needful. We should not let the Lord of the sky, the sun god, wait for his worship and his offering. Let's do the needful. So Sri Radha, she nods in agreement to Madhu's proposal and offers seats to Madhu Mangal and Krishna disguised as the priest. Then she places the tray of sweets in the priest's hands, in Krishna's hands, for offering, along with gifts of garments and ornaments for Suryadev. And at that very moment, Abhimanyu arrives with his mother, Jatila, and the plot thickens. Now, it's mentioned that on the way to Suryakund, Abhimanyu and Jatila had been harshly speaking about Sri Radha, complaining about her and criticizing her. Maybe she's meeting this Krishna from time to time. They were speaking harshly about Sri Radha. But since they were now in the presence of Suryadev and a Brahmana priest, Jatila and Abhimanyu controlled themselves and sat down in the corner of the courtyard. Now Srimati Radharani acknowledged their arrival by bowing her head as disguised Krishna began reciting mantras to the sun god. And as he does so, Radharani becomes nervous that her in-laws, meaning Abhimanyu and Jatila, might recognize Krishna because of the way he's chanting the mantras or his voice. So Radharani just sits there shaking with fear, not knowing what to expect, what's going to happen now. The other cowherd girls also sense impending danger and whisper amongst themselves, Abhimanyu will surely recognize Krishna's voice. What should we do? But the priest, is calm as he chants these beautiful mantras in praise of the sun. He's very calm because he's happy to be with Radharani again. So soon, it's described, after their pastimes at Radhakund. They're getting away with it. But seeing Radharani's nervousness, this priest, disguised Krishna, comes up with a plan to calm her down, as well as to deal with Jatila and Abhimanyu's constant suspicions and criticism of Radha. So suddenly, Krishna makes his voice to sound, this priest, makes his voice to sound as if it's coming from the deity, Suryadev. He's speaking, but it sounds like Suryadev speaking. And the voice says, who has been speaking ill of Radharani? You, Shri Radha, are as pure as my rays, the sun god speaking. You, Shri Radha, are as pure as my rays. Thus I cannot tolerate those who falsely accuse you of any type of misconduct. O chaste girl, everyone's hearing, no matter how many sacrifices you perform for me, in return for the sins of those who criticize you, I will send death to your husband and ruin Jatila, along with her relatives, her cows, and to all the people in her village, if anyone criticizes you. So then Shri Radha, understanding Krishna's plan, because Krishna is speaking as the deity, she played along by saying, Oh, with folded hands I pray to you, my worshipable deity, whom I have served all my life. What will be my fate if my friends and relatives die? My husband Abhimanyu is my life. She has to say it. My husband Abhimanyu is my life. If he dies, how can I live? And my dear mother-in-law Jatila always treats me with affection. If she is destroyed, how will your Radha survive such a calamity? Oh, please, be kind to them. Now, while Krishna, in Suryadev's voice, and Shri Radha speak like this, Jatila and Abhimanyu stand by wide-eyed with their mouths agape. And finally, because they're hearing this whole thing, finally the deity of the sun says, O chaste one, Shri Radha, your intense devotion to me is very pleasing. Therefore rest assured that no calamity shall befall you. You, your husband, family, and friends are all safe. Be at peace. And at these words of reassurance from the deity of Surya, Radha and Krishna and disguised Krishna take their seats very close to each other, the priest and Radha, to complete the offering. And as they chant mantras to worship the sun god and offer incense, lamps, flowers, and garlands, their heartbeats get stronger and stronger because they've managed to come together. And it's described as such, their love for each other shines brightly in their eyes. They're able to fool Jatila and Abhimanyu. And as a result, their hearts are beating and their love shines brightly in their eyes. Then after the puja is completed, it takes some time, they don't mind, Shri Radha addresses Suryadev. O Lord, if you are still my protector and well-wisher after all I have asked, please throw me a flower, then I will be reassured. Everything you said is true. And as soon as she finishes speaking, the deity smiles and what? Shakes his body, causing all the offered flowers that have been offered to him to fall in a shower to the floor. And all the gopis present jump to their feet and joyfully cry out, Jai, 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 while Madhu Mangal is trying to gather all the offered sweets that have fallen on the ground in his cloth. Then Krishna disguises the priest, goes to each gopi, he places his hands on their heads and blesses them with the words, may you all be happy with your husbands. With your husbands. Then disguised Krishna left, and it's described, the acharyas described that he's leaving, but he's looking back as if to look at the beautiful deity of Suryadeva, but actually his glance always falls on Srimati Radharani, seeing the face of his beloved. And soon after that, Abhimanyu, he leaves with Radharani and Jatila to go back to Yavat. Now it's really interesting. On the way home, Abhimanyu and his mother, they end up praising Sri Radha profusely. Although along the same road, not long ago, they had accused her of so many terrible things and called her bad names, but now everything's changed by this amazing pastime. And arriving in Yavat, Abhimanyu says to Jatila, and I quote him, "My dear mother, never again listen to the advice of our foolish neighbors, who will be the death of me, and never again fault your daughter-in-law, lest the Lord ruin you." And as the two of them talked about all they'd seen and heard that day at Suryakund, they agreed never again to speak ill about anyone, especially Srimati Radharani. Hare Krishna. Very famous pastime. I've told it a number of times, but out at Suryakund. So if you have a chance, go to Suryakund and remember this wonderful pastime. So we can finish today with two very beautiful prayers, calling from our hearts upon the mercy of Radha and Krishna. There's so many, of course, but I chose the following. Bivamangal Thakur writes in his Krishna Karnamrita, verse 104, "O Krishna, you and you alone are my worshipable deity, the giver of love and the fulfiller of all desires. You alone are the object of my knowledge, my power, my wealth, my vital force, and my very life." And finally, Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada prays in his Gandharva Samparta Nashtakam, verse 6. One of my favorites. "O Queen of Vrindavan, Shri Radha, when can I fan you with a yak-tail fan with a jeweled rod, while you and Shri Krishna are sitting under a tree? Your lotus-like face is beautified by drops of perspiration from fatigue after your pastimes on the shore of your pond, Shri Radhakund." Hare Krishna. One of my favorite disguised pastimes today at Radhakund and at Suryakund. So thank you, Prabhus. I just left Macedonia, where we had several wonderful festivals. Now I'm in France. I'm going to New Mayapur to celebrate the 50th anniversary of establishing that project, which was desired by Srila Prabhupada. We're going to have 3 or 4 days of wonderful festivities, so come here for that. So I'm living in a little rural home just outside the community, very, very, very beautiful. So thank you, and see you next Friday. Oh, glorious Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Pemanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Sham Suryakunda ki. Haribol.